Down. 2, 1. All right, let me just hit a quick refresh on this screen. I believe we are live. So, good evening, everybody. I'm Dustin Coiner from TrackDaz here in SoCal, and I'm on with the Superbike genius himself, the team owner, Richard Stanboli of, let's see, Fresh and Lean Progressive Yamaha Racing Team, presented by Attack Performance.
Pretty good, yeah.
God damn.
Thank you a few times.
Yeah, I mean, whatever, man.
You got your microphone turned down a little bit this go around, so you're not blasting everyone.
Yeah, I turned it down just a little bit so I wouldn't hear Canfield's mouth.
Well, you like to hear yourself talk, so that's why that thing is all
Oh, is
loud.
that what it is? Is that what it
Yeah.
is? Yeah, because I go back and listen to these things, after. Yeah, Canfield beat me up pretty good about the last one. I was like, dude, your microphone is overpowering everything. I can only hear you. Richard sounds like.
Well, he was right.
Yeah, he was. Yeah,
I thought he needed to turn up his hearing aids, but he was actually correct.
right. Yeah, somebody already commented the longer your name gets, the more you win.
The more we what?
The longer the team name is, the more you win.
Is that right? Why is it the HSBK, Ducati, New York, something or another? You know, their name might be a little bit longer.
I mean, yeah, that's true. That's a true statement.
Hmm.
All right, so we had a recent test. Is a final test actually before you go to Daytona, right?
Yes, that's correct.
So I'm not sure what you want to do. You want to talk about Daytona first, or you want to talk about the test first?
Doesn't matter.
Let's
Whatever.
talk about the test. All
Okay.
right, so we get there. I go in, set up timing and scoring, and then you text me. You're like, "Hey, man, just a heads up. You remember we're going 26, right?" I'm like, "Shit, I totally spaced it." So I had to like remap everything, and you're like, "Hey, can you just make sure all the other teams are ready for 26 so they don't go out the wrong way?" I'm like, "Shit, okay." There was a track map up in timing and scoring, like one of the great big ones that people use for the writers meeting. I threw it in the back of my truck and I went pit to pit. Uh, my first stop was the M4 team, and John Ulrich was sitting there, and I was like, "Hey, man, we're going this way." And he's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. We don't give a shit. Like, we're gonna go. That's the way we're going. Cool."
Well, they had called. Chris
Yeah,
messaged me a couple of times, and their data guy, Rat, who's also I think their engine guy. I'm not sure, but anyway, he does their data. He
yeah,
had messaged Marshall, our data guy, to confirm it was course 26,
yeah,
and so did the Westby. Anyway, go ahead.
yeah. So and then I turn around, I come around the back row, and the BMW guys and Westby was Sullivan was like, "Yeah, yeah, mate, we're good." Like, "Get away from me, you bother me," right? And then the BMW guys, like the one I talked to was Scooter Jensen. Uh, Scooter's a racer, right? Scott Jensen's a racer himself, or a former racer, and now
Is
I
that what they
believe
call him, Scooter?
Scooter Jensen, yeah,
I didn't know that.
yeah. So I've known Scott for years. I pitted next to him in the Toyota 200 like a million years ago, even. Um, but he was like, "Okay, thanks," right? And Cameron Bobier was standing right next to him, and he says, "It was like I pissed in his Cheerios," and he's like, "Who decided to go that direction?" And I'm like, I pointed at your garage, and I'm like, "Go ask the skipper over there." And he's like, like I pissed in his Cheerios. So,
He's ridden that way before, as far as I know. He just didn't ever do it with us because
right,
we honestly didn't test as much back then, and didn't weren't really thinking of using the track for all it was worth.
yeah. Well, I mean, the reality is, since I've been your timing guy, we test there a couple times a year, right, with that config. Um,
Yeah, last year we did both. Every other time was that way.
yeah,
We went one way clockwise, next way counterclockwise, and it works different parts of the bike. But yeah, I mean the BMW guys I think were the only guys who had their feathers a bit ruffled for whatever reason. But
Yeah.
I guess they had a little bit of data from last time they were there. They've only been there once before. And, they came by the garage straight away that morning. We just finished unloading our bikes, and Dave Weaver comes over along with Jensen, and they're like, so what's up with us running the course this direction or something like that? And I'm like, that's the way we're running it. And he's, oh, well, they're not very happy about it. I go, who's not very happy about it? And he's like, PJ. And it must have been early and must have had too much coffee. I'm like, I don't care. Why would I care?
Right.
So the rider's
Yeah.
upset. So they get upset every 2 minutes about something.
Yeah. Yeah. So, just to clarify, the course direction configuration 26 at Buttonwillow, we were running it counterclockwise, and basically that means that you go through the S's to that Mazda corner at the end, and then you take the drag strip from there to Riverside. So, I mean, I would imagine that you were testing some engine configuration stuff, like
Yeah, we had a new engine in Jake's bike. It was, I think, our best one yet, or pretty close to it as far as the performance.
yeah,
And so we wanted to go out and give it the RPM and see how the thing looked like when we take it back apart and have a good look at it. But yeah, so that was one reason. But the main reason why we run both configurations is because 13 and 26 is because the one way it works mainly acceleration. 13 is almost all acceleration,
Yeah.
with some front end work. And then the other, then 26 works the front pretty hard. That whatever you call that thing, second turn from the end with the first gear corner,
oh yeah, off ramp, I guess.
off ramp. Yeah. I still can't get over those names, but anyway,
Turn two.
last
That one.
turn 2 going clockwise. Yeah, but
Yeah.
turn whatever going the other way, right?
Right.
Off ramp. So that you're decelerating all the way into the pointy part of that corner. So it's really good for working on engine braking, front end feel, how much you're going to push the front, any kind of rear brake use you're going to use, things like that. So it's always a challenge, and it makes both tracks almost feel completely different to the riders.
Really?
So without going to load up your truck and drive halfway across the country to get to the racetrack, you got 2 racetracks in one. So it saves us time and money and everything else.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Cam P says that Buttonwillow is one of the most difficult tracks that he rides on. Like, I mean, he's gotten used to it and it's easy now, but he says it works the shit out of him because he doesn't really have a place to rest.
Yeah, I mean, coming down that front straightaway. So basically, the bike's on the anti-wheelie almost all the way to the braking zone, and so it's cutting, it's spinning, it's trying to wheelie, it's trying to do something all the way into that. So you get a little bit of time there to rest, but not a whole lot. And going the other configuration, 13, you don't really rest at all because you don't have that long drag strip straightaway.
Right.
I'm not sure if I consider that drag strip straightaway a big rest area, but it's a 6-gear straightaway without a doubt.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
We're getting about 189, 190 miles an hour at the end of that thing.
Yeah, so that's funny you say that, 189, 190 miles an hour. I was standing, if you could picture it, the drag strip goes this way and the road to Phil Hill goes this way. I was standing on that little triangle of dirt, basically with the radar gun that Mike, the track manager, provided me, having a good time with that thing. And where I was standing, the boys were still on the gas quite a ways after me, and you guys and the BMW guys both were right around 169 to 171 right there, and then the other guys were about 160 right there. But yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you, man. I was kind of shitting my pants like every time because the straightaway, it's not like a flat drag strip. It's like 150 mile an hour jumps. And where I was standing was right after the last one. So the guys are just
there's a spot in 5th gear where the rear tire basically comes off the ground at about 170 miles an hour or so, 180 probably.
Yeah, that's right around where I was standing.
And
yeah.
the RPM blasts through the moon because it freewheels, and even the rev limiter can't catch it. It freewheels so quick, it spikes.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, even the kid on the 600, Declan, I mean, he was getting about 145 right there on his
Yeah.
R6, and I mean, even his bike was just he'd hit that last jump, and it was just like like it's like Isle of Man shit, but like I'm standing there with a radar gun like right in front of it, like this is the dumbest thing ever. Never doing
Yeah.
that again. So
Yeah, I was a little surprised by the reaction of the BMW guys, perfectly honest with you.
yeah,
Because it's challenging, right? So you're there to, when you test, you're there to challenge
right,
yourself and try stuff or have a plan. And part of that is doing your homework and finding out all the specifics about the racetrack, right?
yeah.
So you can't make a bunch of assumptions. You go on that website for Buttonwillow, and how many configurations they have?
Oh, a
Like
million.
10,
Yeah,
12?
yeah. You can flip that thing around and upward, backwards, cut it into
I mean, there's
loops,
a
and
bunch of different ways to do it,
yeah,
and so they need to go on there and go, okay, hey, which one are we running, and ask some questions like the other teams did. So you can't just
yeah,
blindly go to a test and expect all the stuff to be done for you. You got to have to do a little bit of homework.
yeah,
So I was kind of surprised by that. So when they came up to me like, oh, we're running it this way, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
what's the big
I
deal?
remember getting a call from Scooter and I was up in the tower. And he's like, "Hey, man, just making sure. PJ wants to know if we got to go down to that Star Mazda corner or we're gonna go to that sweeper thing."
Carousel, yeah,
Yeah, and I was like, "Yeah, the Mazda corner." He's like, "Oh, okay, cool." That was it.
yeah. Yeah, I
So
mean, they got with it and all that, but I don't think they were very happy with the test at all because of the weather, how far they had to come, being able to only do a day and a half. I mean, what can we do about the weather?
yeah,
The first day, we saw it coming. So, you check the weather report, we're like, okay, about 2 o'clock it's going to start howling.
yeah,
It was all good that whole morning. So we just got right to it. Like first thing we moved the test up about a half an hour, right? So
yeah,
started at 10 instead of 10:30 like we normally do. And we just started getting to it because the weather was nice the first day and Jake went out, ripped out a bunch of 41s right away. Low 40, I get a 41.2 on his third stint.
yeah.
He
Like
did a 41 on his second
I
stint,
think his first stint in the morning, he did like a 42-1 right out. Like he rolled out of
Yeah.
bed, ate his little chocolate
Yeah.
oatmeal
Put it
thing.
this way. His second flying lap, he was already 293 kilometers an hour or something like that down
Yeah,
that back straightaway.
yeah,
So I'm already in the 180s. So a lot of confidence to be able to do that. Know that, hey, I can take this bike that just got put together and I could bend it into a corner that at 180 miles an hour.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I did ask him because I watch. I went out to the wall and watched, and Jake. It sounded like he was going down 3 gears there, and like through that fast sweeping left-hander Riverside corner. I mean, he was. It sounded like he was wringing the R1's neck through there, and then he would backshift one to second gear for the bus stop corner, and so I asked him, I'm like, dude, are you like wringing that thing's neck in third? He's like, oh yeah, I go down 3 gears. So he legit is. I mean, it's like he rolls and it's like bang, 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 like really quick, really
Hmm.
smooth shifts, but he's on the limit all the way around. It's
It's
amazing.
amazing the Jake we have now versus the Jake that first rode our bike.
Right. Yeah.
Like it's a pretty big difference.
Yeah.
The first guy I remember hopped on Jake V1 version 2 or version 1 or whatever it's called. Hopped on our bike the first test and he was going into turn, I guess you call it 1, going clockwise
Hmm.
towards 13, and he was boom, 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 going to the corner. I go, what the heck is he doing? So I had to pull him aside and go, hey, watch Cambodia go in there, bung, 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 into the corner, right?
Yeah.
So I go, he goes, oh yeah, those Tenkate guys at World Superbike told me not to do that because I was over revving the engine. I'm like, what? They all do that over there. So that's kind of a strange thing. But now he's completely has that whole braking downshifting thing down pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive to watch, and I'll be straight with you, man. Like I talked to Cam P about this last night on our show last night, and the car guys that are there that we share the test with, they stand out at the wall and watch, and they think the boys are all lunatics, right?
Yeah,
Uh, and they're standing there like, man, listen to that thing cracking and popping. That's why he's not faster, because the things, they don't understand that all that cracking and popping down the straightaway is to keep the front wheel down, right?
yeah, keep it from looping over backwards.
Yeah.
I remember one time we tested with JD Beach there, and we'd just come back from Miller, I think, or what do they call that now? Utah Motorsports Park, something like
Yeah.
that.
Yep.
Yeah, and that was that stupid configuration that Motor America did, that half track thing.
Yeah.
It's completely lame. So I think the thing was like 2 gears or 3 gears maybe, and uh, and the altitude's so high that you could turn off the wheelie control in a bunch of places. And so we had it in the firmware. The wheelie control was off. I think fourth gear on. So JD gets on the bike at Buttonwillow, and it was like, here's your settings, but that one setting is in the back end. And so he gets on it, and he's doing the stand-up wheelie down the whole straightaway practically, And he comes in the very next lap. He's like, the wheelie control isn't working. I thought he was just screwing around. I go, oh my God, did JD turn into Heron all of a sudden? We're in a test. All he's doing is wheelies. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Oh man, that's
JD
funny.
turned into Heron.
That's funny. But yeah, the car guys are impressed with the mile an hour down the straightaway specifically, because it seems like their lap times, the faster guys are faster than us.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, they have a car, 4
But
tires.
but their straightaway speed's nowhere near what.
No.
And so yeah, we all know this, right? But there's this cocky little driver kid, and he comes up and he's like throwing his weight around basically, right? And he's like, oh yeah, well I'm just glad that we're faster. That's all that matters. I'm like, okay, bro. And he walks away. He goes back out. I run the clock on him, and he was 10 seconds slower than Jake. So it was just kind of fun. It's kind of fun. But okay, so the test, this test you didn't have Cam P because he had his little surgical maintenance going on. So
Yeah.
what specifically were you testing at this test?
Mainly shock settings. We did a bunch of the geometry work last couple tests. So we introduced a new swing arm and linkage, and so we worked through that, and then we found a comfortable geometry, and then we did a little more geometry work with ride heights and things like that, and then we're going to get into wheelbase differences. But before we started into that, we started doing a couple of hydraulic settings that we didn't do before, meaning shock, internal valving, things like that.
Yeah.
High speed, low speed stuff, and rebound versus spring rates and things of that nature. Just trying to find a better window for the new swing arm.
Okay.
And just to sometimes you just say, okay, I want to know where the window is not. So if we ever end up in a situation, another racetrack, you go, okay, well, we did that before and it didn't work out very well. So that's not the direction.
Right.
Or let's not go down that rabbit hole,
Yeah.
A lot of times understanding your equipment and knowing that, okay, this absolutely does not work. We've done it 2 or 3 times and it's just not right for our particular bike. It might work on another guy's bike. It might work on Matt Scholz's bike.
Right.
Because Matt's different. His bike's different. And but you find that window for us, and that's what we were basically working on, is just researching the window of our motorcycle.
So, you guys are working with that new swing arm, right? How is that coming along? I mean, is it?
Yeah, really good.
Yeah.
I think we pegged at the end of the test. We were able to pin the acceleration pretty hard coming out of that. What do they call it, Star Mazda, that first corner. Yeah, so you're trying to find, okay, how fast can we accelerate off of here, and how much can we keep the front wheel down, and do the full balancing act between the amount of torque. And you work with the chassis too to get that. So it isn't just add power, add power, add power. Then you just have a guy that's like leaning on the rear brake, keep it from standing, going over backwards, or your wheelie cut's so strong that thing's not very smooth,
Yeah.
So you have basically the torque that you can manage, and then you have the amount of cut that you can have, and the cut is basically reacting to what the chassis does. So that's like a closed loop system, and then the amount of torque you apply is more like an open loop system. So you can say, okay, I'm only going to give it this much power, and then you lay on top of that the wheelie control and the traction control and things like that.
So this test, it seemed like you guys were way more regimented. You guys were just like boom, 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 instead of shotgun blasting. And it seemed like
We're that way. We're usually that way.
Yeah, there's only been one, I think, where it was the shotgun blast kind of thing. It's like, what are we gonna do? Right? Not
Yeah, probably
intentionally.
probably the very first test with that swing arm.
Yeah,
We just wanted to go out and get a feel of what the riders wanted,
yeah,
and it added a bunch, like I talked about, it added a bunch of grip, but it did have a side effect of instability. So we had
yeah,
to work on that. So when you add a bunch of grip and then you're spinning over bumps and you're trying to drive forward more than normal, then the sliding and pumping and grip and slide is all exaggerated.
yeah,
And then you got to be able to pare that back. Well, just pulling power out wasn't the answer. It just
yeah.
made the bike slower, right? We're back to the old bike again.
Right.
So working through that, so that was more like do a little bit of testing just to get a bunch of negatives, so you can come back and look at the data and then build a regimen and test on that.
Right. And
So that's that was what we call exploratory.
I mean, the fact that he was able to do like basically low 41s the first session, like the first flyer, he was 40, 42 something.
Yeah.
That's pretty testament to the shit's working, right? Like,
Yeah, I don't know what I know the club races that direction, right? It's like
yeah.
Weir and those guys race that direction too.
No, we're out of California, but the California Road Race Association raced there 2 years in a row, and in August, and yeah, nobody went anywhere near that.
Yeah.
I think 45s. I think
Yeah, that's about right.
for club racers.
I can't imagine they're going to be into the 42s even.
No, no.
But Bovier was fast. I mean, I think he
Yeah.
got
Like
low
42-1, 42-1
yeah,
or
something like
something.
that.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to be a weapon. I think him and that team.
Oh yeah. I mean, they're definitely taking shit serious, and
They
apparently
should.
those bikes are not the bikes that they're gonna race. Apparently, those are last year's bikes, and those new bikes are
I might hold on to those. Did you watch the World Superbike race?
not yet. I haven't gotten around to it yet.
Yeah, yeah. I wouldn't do backflips over the performance of the BMWs. That's for sure.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. Was that Phillip Island? I mean,
Yeah.
everybody was in the back.
Really?
Yeah, all the Beamers.
That's interesting.
Yeah, the only guys who were really rocking was Batista and Rinaldi. And everybody else was, Top Rack struggled a bit. He was on pole, and then for sure Johnny Rave struggled quite a bit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're going to the Australian Willow Springs, basically, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Much
So,
nicer though than Willow Springs.
oh, 100%. Yeah, I said the
Yeah.
Australian Willow Springs. I didn't know I needed to clarify. It's like nice there. Yeah, so they definitely look like a threat though. The Suzuki team, I mean, Richie Escalante, that dude,
Around the 42s, right?
he got into the 42s, man. And I gave him
49.
props. I know that kid, so I reached out to him. I was like, hey, bro, like, you hate Buttonwillow. I know you hate Buttonwillow. So like, to see you do he usually, I think his fastest before was a 44 or something. So
Yeah, I always have a concern when people say I really don't like this track,
yeah,
or that's my worst track, or whatever they say. And I remember Josh Hayes told me back in the day, like 2003, I'm thinking.
yeah,
He said he didn't say much about Laguna Seca, but when we got there, he's like, "Oh, I hate this track," or I don't like this track. I can't get along with this track." And he actually won there that same day.
Hmm.
He finally beat that his goal there, and actually did a good job.
Yeah.
I think he's been pretty fast there ever since.
Yeah. I mean, he's won a lot of races there, hasn't he? So
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's interesting, but yeah, like Richie always was like, I hate this track, So, I mean, him hating the thing, he was always like quite a bit off there, and to see them and that bike go that fast, I was like, all right, maybe y'all are figuring your shit out,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about the structure of that Suzuki chassis. Maybe it's a bit rigid for that racetrack. Maybe it's a bit rigid altogether. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't either.
Because I'm just watching Tony ride it before. He was off it.
Yeah.
Seemed like it was just spinning the tire a lot and not going forward.
Yeah, I
That
don't.
could be Tony's setup too. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean Tony. I talked to Tony as well, and he's managing his expectations, because he knows that that things aren't at that team. They're not the same as they were at Yosh, where they would just like give him whatever he wanted and whatever he asked for, and because they basically spent everything they did to go racing, and that particular team doesn't have the resources that the old team had. So, and he recognizes that, and he's like, "Look, we're just gonna work with what we got, dude." And I was like, "All right, that's fair." Maybe that's why he's growing his little ponytail thing that's like that long.
Little rat tail.
Yeah, so funny. So, Tony said he was a bit rusty. He said he struggled with getting his eyes back up and stuff, but he'll get
Yeah.
there. He'll get there.
Yeah, he messaged me after the test, asking me how much the test, like how much it costs at Buttonwillow and things like that, because I guess he's got ideas about that track in Arizona, the new track.
Yeah.
What the hell is that thing called again?
Podium Club?
Podium Club, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, they want to test there?
Well, Tony said, hey, we should organize something there. I said, all right,
Yeah.
yeah, whatever.
They want to. I mean, the Podium Club guys they've asked me a bunch of times to figure out a way to get you out there to test. I'm like, he's kind of already got his test scheduled, but I'm sure he wants to, like, come out.
Yeah, we can work it in next year. It's just extra 4 or 5 hours more driving,
Yeah.
And I don't know what the hotels are like nearby, but can't be any worse than Bakersfield, I guess.
Yeah, Holiday Inn Express, dude. It's the same shit,
Yeah.
basically,
Yeah,
right?
no, it'd be nice to. I mean, Tony said it's a really good racetrack,
Yeah.
and high speed corners, low speed corners, elevation, right?
Yep.
I don't know what they have for a straightaway, but yeah,
The
it might be
straightaway's
worth
a
a look.
half mile, dude.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, so it might be worth a look.
Yeah, it's healthy. It's healthy. Both directions too. I mean, the tracks.
Uh-oh, both directions.
Yeah, dude, it's good to go.
We don't want to do that. We want to go the same place, same thing all the time.
We want to race
Being
at Willow.
sarcastic.
We want to race at Willow 12 months out of the year.
The same direction.
Yes.
Those guys that raced at Willow Springs were never very good anywhere else.
Except Curtis Adams was pretty good, but other than that,
Yeah, it was pretty tough to take a Willow guy and stick him in the AMA circuits and have him win. It just seemed like it was uphill battle. But when the AMA guys went to Willow Springs back in the day, they had a hard time beating those guys,
oh yeah,
the local fast
Yeah.
guys, right? And Chuck Graves raced there too, right? He kind of got
yeah.
a start there, and he was fast with other racetracks.
All right, so I've got some comments coming in.
Yeah.
Pinky wants to know, what did you think of Joe Roberts during the Buttonwillow test? I
I
don't
think
think
he was just
stuck
out there
around.
just getting. I don't think he was trying to burn any lap times. I think he was just
No.
trying to get some seat time. That's it.
Yeah, yeah. Joe
There's
Roberts bought a new R1, basically track prepped it. It's like a track day slut bike, and I believe he just uses that as his practice bike, right?
Yeah, I mean, he didn't have a transponder, so I don't even know how fast he went. I don't think it's really relevant.
Yeah.
He was just trying to get some track time.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Getting his eyes up. I mean,
Yeah,
it looked like he was going pretty quick. He just didn't. I didn't have a transponder on him, so there's no way I could know how fast or whatever he was
Yeah, I
going.
didn't put a stopwatch on him. I mean, he didn't look all that zippy when I went and watched the corners, but I'm sure he's going pretty decent. I mean, it just doesn't look all that quick.
All right. Sean Williams wants to ask you about your string procedure for measuring if a frame is straight, because he sent his bike off into the weeds in Riverside at the last race weekend.
String procedure.
Like your string line
Well,
thing.
Well, I mean, we stringline the bike to get the. You can use string. You can use whatever. You can use lasers like a Formula car guys do. But we use you wrap a string around. You get a bare wheel. You wrap a string around the back part of the wheel, and then you parallel it with the front part of the wheel. You probably take the fairings off, and then you run that all the way forward, so it goes past the front wheel. So imagine there's two, and then you use like a jack stand or something to pull it straight, like old school stuff, right? But it works. So then you run that thing all the way to the front. So you're projecting from the rear wheel all the way to the front. And if you know where your adjusters are before you go out and crash your bike, and then you go out and crash your bike, and then you restring line it, and your adjuster's in the same spot, you can almost guarantee you didn't do anything to the chassis. Like you can't bend the chassis and have the wheels still in the same alignment. or you got really lucky. It's bent one way and then bent back again. You know, so yeah, just running two parallel lines all the way to the front, and then you zero it out to the front wheel. You know, you adjust the adjusters until the whole thing is zeroed out.
Yeah.
You know, you measure from the string all the way to the front wheel. I mean, it's a technique. You can probably look it up online or something and learn how to do it.
Some dude probably has a YouTube video describing how to do it and
How to
showing you
string
the
line it.
strings.
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably.
Like how
Has a million viewers.
like do a YouTube search, how to string line stuff. Like
You could probably string line a car and buy the same thing, you know.
yeah.
But I think theirs a little bit different. I mean, some guys, I mean, yeah, that's a whole other thing. But a motorcycle is pretty easy. Like I said, bare wheel, string, jack stands, tape measure, scale, metal scale, it's accurate, you know. Calipers if you want to get super accurate. Simple.
There you go.
I've seen some guys use really long, something straight, you know, like aluminum tubing or something like that. That's not extruded, you know, something fairly accurate. But you know, the string, you pull it tight, it's going to be straight.
There you go. All right. Pinky wants to know if you plan on using the new transmission with the neutral lockout, and the bike slides out. That switch breaks. What happens after that? Huh? I don't know.
Oh, he's talking about if the lever breaks, you can't put it back in neutral type thing. I think
Right.
it's locked into gear.
Right.
You can pull the clutch in and start the bike. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
You know, you just don't have a neutral, so you just have the clutch in.
Oh.
But the
Okay. I get it now.
but
The
the
little-
lever is, yeah, the lever is near the fuel tank. So if you kill that thing, you know, it's like behind the triple clamp, right where the fuel tank screws on. It's not
Right.
something that's on the handlebar. You kill that thing, your bike's pretty much done.
Well,
I'm
you're
pretty sure
probably
you're not riding it.
you probably busted the stacks out of the airbox too if you did that, right?
Yeah, the whole thing is done. If it gets
Yeah.
to that lever, the bike is done.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about riding it because pieces of it are flying everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, you're gonna have to drag it into the truck anyway, right?
Yeah, Brainerd, 2022.
Yeah. Yeah. Or, the first test earlier in February, right? Like we had to.
Well,
drag-
that
we
came
didn't
back in
break
one
that,
piece.
but we didn't break that. It was just a wheel, but I was just saying dragging
Well,
the bike.
yeah, that crash was worse than you think. It broke a lot of stuff. It was pretty amazing
Yeah.
for a low side. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
Jake's famous low sides. Go ahead.
So let's see. August Nord, privateer, super sport racer chick. She says that Richard's favorite subject, rear handbrake. May I suggest a brake lever above the clutch?
What's that?
She says, may she suggest a brake lever above the clutch? Yeah, above the clutch.
Uh,
You
okay.
have a handbrake on that side. You're not using a
Yeah,
thumb
the
brake.
brake is in a position where the rider can get to it,
Yeah,
but clutch down, then the adjuster runs into the fork.
right.
You know, so
Yep.
you can't adjust your clutch. It's all pretty tight up there. It's like
Yeah.
really hard to pack all that stuff together. You got, the reservoir hose, and you got your clutch lever, and then you got a brake master, and there's just a bunch going on.
And you have all these video game buttons.
Yeah, Jake doesn't use that so much, but yeah. So this last test too, we played around with a little different leverage ratio too on the rear master, just trying to get him more comfortable with using it. He doesn't really use it that much, but it's really just for tightening up that, like for instance, that whatever you call that thing, off ramp.
Yeah,
That off ramp corner where you get to basically stopped in first gear.
yeah,
Yeah, and then you accelerate out. Yeah, so it's for corners like that where you just need that extra little help from the rear tire. Because we have a pretty good handle on the engine braking, from straight up and down to full lean. So there isn't really much assistance required unless the guy's offline or something like that.
Cam P was saying that he just wants to be able to put his index finger up there, just just know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean they're not.
Yeah,
They're,
Cam doesn't hardly ever touch a rear brake with his foot,
yeah,
so I think he'd be a little easier to get used to it.
yeah,
Jake was just he's like a creature of habit, so he doesn't even know half the time that he's pushing on the thing, or slowing himself down or whatever.
yeah.
You know, so like every left-hander, like he would be leaning on the rear brake while he's on the gas, just because he could, you know.
Yeah, he told
So
me he still sticks his foot down there, you know, and I told him that you set him up a good Bluetooth rear brake lever there, so
yeah,
he could he
yeah,
could
the
he could
invisible
stomp
one,
on that thing all he wants, right?
the invisible one,
Yeah,
yeah.
Bluetooth. Yeah,
Yeah, Mark Harper, he kept, you know, his who supplied the master cylinder, you know, and from HHR,
yeah,
Hustle Hard Racing, you know.
yeah.
So he kept saying, "You need a rear master too." I said, "No, we don't. That's what we're trying to get rid of.
The stunt
We don't
bike.
need the rear master." Yes, just finger levers. We're fine. Just think of bicycle.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he said it's working out. Like he says it's not that big a deal, but he did
Yeah,
say that he's, you know, he's still kind of. He says he feels his foot going down there, even though he knows the lever's not there. So
yeah,
it's
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
But you know, I
You're
mean,
getting to it.
a guy at that level that is basically smoking everybody is still talking about like, yeah, I'm still kind of fucking up right here. Like the awareness of that, you know, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and in MotoGP they started using the rear brake again a lot more because of the ride height devices and things like that, and definitely because of the how much freewheel the engine has. They even have an exhaust valve in those things to produce more engine braking. But the street bikes they produce so much engine braking that you can really control it almost 100%. I'd say 99.9% of the time you can control almost everything with that with the settings. And I think for the teams that don't manage the settings that well and just leave it up to the rider, I think they're maybe doing their riders a little bit of a disservice.
Wow. All right, so let's see what else we got for comments here. Our buddy Mark Gagne's got something to say. He says that the glare of the commander's head tonight is quite impressive. You know, so there you go.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, yeah, dude.
He's got
Mark's
a
actually.
glaring head also.
Yeah, I mean, look, we all, you know, we all shop at the same barber, so to speak,
Yeah.
right?
What's with the super light hat? Is Brian taking care of you over there?
Brian takes care of me big time. Super light, yes sir.
He's a good guy.
And Yoshimura takes care of me too. This actually, I've been with them for 10 years now. That's crazy, right? So, yeah,
Yeah, Brian
I
took care of us at Daytona last year because we have a deal with Sunstar, you know,
yeah,
Braking Sunstar. They supply the rotors and the sprockets. And it's a kind of a corporate gig with Yamaha.
yeah,
So, but before that, we were with Brian for forever. You know, he
yeah,
always supplied our sprockets. Good dude. He's only like a few blocks away from us.
yeah. I dig him because I can go down there, pick up my shit from you, and then go a couple blocks over and grab that, and then go talk to the painter for 3 hours. So it's great,
Matt, he's painting our Daytona stuff now.
right? Uh,
Yeah,
but yeah, so yeah, super light. They're always, you know, anytime I need anything, like you know, I just call Brian and he's like, yeah, man, what do you need? No problem. And you
yeah. I
know,
mean, this is where we're at in Huntington Beach. I mean, you got Brian's like a couple blocks away. Matt, the painter, Color Zone, does a great job. He's only a couple blocks away, so kind of makes it really easy
the Stomp
over here at
Grip
Motec.
dudes right down the street.
Motec's a couple blocks away. We don't use
Yeah,
Stomp Grip, but yeah, the guys we use are in England.
yeah,
You know, but anyway, we used to use Stomp Grip stuff.
yeah. All right, so then let's see what else. Oh, Matt Testa, he's asking like what your tire allocation and or strategy is for testing, and at what point does the data and rider feedback change because of used tires, and most importantly, multiple heat cycles.
Yeah, it's interesting. You have to be very conscious of heat cycling, and we're always happy if we can go out and go better or the same on a heat cycle tire, which we do. You can go back and look at the data and go, okay, look, you did a 41.5, and then the next run on the same tire did a 41.2.
Yeah,
You know, so sometimes depends on your settings and how the rider is. You just have to be conscious of all that. It's hard to put quantify it, but usually we'll get probably we try to go race distance on the tires before we change them.
yeah,
So if it's a 20 laps of distance, we'll try to put 20 laps on the tires, heat cycles or not. And then we're always, as far as the heat cycles go, we try to wrap the tires up right away and keep them at like about 60 C internal temperature, which is hard to do sometimes when it's really cold out, 60, 70 C internal temp. So, yeah, so that keeps the tires maybe more consistent.
Okay.
And also, I'm in some pressure games to play. Like you get a big pressure drop when it's cold out. You'll roll out and you think you have this much air in your tire or this much pressure, and then you look at the data and it's like, oh yeah, no, you lost a couple tenths of a bar, the front tire. So you may have to start a little higher in pressure when it's really cold out, so you can maintain the pressure internal. Look at your TPMS data and you go, okay, yeah, we need to start a couple tenths of a bar more, whatever, 2 or 3 psi more to have it stabilize where it stabilizes.
Well, Maddie, I hope you're happy with that answer, buddy.
I probably didn't answer a damn thing he's asking.
And he was saying like what is your tire allocation and strategy when you're testing tires?
So for the day, we'll probably use 2 front tires and probably 3 rear tires. And in the morning, we'll start with a harder tire. The very first session, we'll start with a scuff
Okay.
from the previous test, just to go out and see how dirty the track is and things like that. And that's what you saw Jake do on the first couple of sessions. That was used tires from the previous test.
Right.
So that kind of gives us a baseline of where we're at with a pretty crappy tire. And if he's out doing a 41 with a used tire, we know we're going to go a lot faster, put a new one on. Then we'll go, let's say that track takes a 129 normally. We'll probably, the next tire we put on is like a 0097, one stiffer. So I don't know, Pirelli land, let's say you're using an SC0, you probably we're starting with SC1, and then
Okay.
we'll go to our race tire be a 0, then we'll go to 0 after that. So when the temperature comes up, that's another thing that's an issue is with almost every tire manufacturer, the tire, there's a temperature range. So if the track is too cold, you can't really use a super soft tire, you just murder it.
Right. Yeah. Just shred the
Tear it
thing.
up.
Yeah.
You'll shred it, yeah.
Even
So
club
you gotta
racers.
stay with
Yeah.
a little bit harder tire until the temperature comes up. The sun comes out and the temperature comes up. So you look at the track temp, you go, okay, we're ready. And then when you get onto the softer tires, you can kind of see how your suspension is and how much you're spinning over bumps, things like that, because you'll see it on the wear of the tire.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'll change a setting and the guy will come back in, go faster, and the tire cleans up, even though it looked like it was a little bit shagged from the previous session, like it was graining or something like that. Change the setting and go, okay, no, wow, the tire looks good. And so the guy's happy, the rider's happy and he's going faster. And the tire looks better. So we're not throwing tires at it every session, that's for sure. It might be, like I said, 2 to 3 tires for the day on the rear and 2 tires for the front. Might get a third front in there and then carry it over the next day, but most of the time it's about like that. You'll burn probably 3 rears and 2 fronts.
Wow. I mean, club racer
We're doing
guys are like,
probably
man.
about, what's that?
I said the club racer guys are like one set for the day and for the weekend, right?
For the weekend, yeah. Well, I mean, we do way more laps than the club racers doing.
Oh, 100%.
We're doing every half hour. We're doing basically a club race,
Right.
or longer.
Multiple club races, yeah.
Yeah. So so we imagine how many half hours there are in a day. We start at 10, and then we'll get like 7 or 8 sessions.
Yeah.
Let's say, and those are half hour long. So maybe we'll do 20, 25 minutes of it, and so we might get in 10 to 12 laps in that, maybe more. So you can get up to like 60 laps in a day, 50 laps in a day, depending on the weather and all that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you're not going to run around for 50 laps on the same tire. It's impossible.
Right.
You won't learn anything. You learn how brave the rider is about it.
Yeah. I think you've already established that with both of your lunatics riding for you.
Yeah.
848 Evo asks you if you can say what the Daytona R6 weighs and how much horsepower and torque it makes.
No. I wish I could. I mean, Daytona's gonna be interesting if you want to talk about that a bit.
Yeah, we can. Let's get through some of these questions first. And then
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah. All right. So you actually just sort of answered part of Brian Green's question, but how many laps does Cam or Jake need to test a new part? Like, do they need 15, 20 minutes to tell, or can they tell even before that?
Uh, well, you can't if you put a new part on. Most of the time you got to go at least race distance on it and try to get race speed. As fast as you can go. So it depends on how long they take to warm up, and those guys get going pretty fast. I'd say a couple sessions and they're up to speed. So it doesn't take that long before we know, okay, this is a good part or not. But sometimes we're starting with a baseline and then we're tossing something at it, and then we go and we try to get up to speed with it, and then a couple sessions on that, and then okay, document what that happened. And like for instance with these last couple tests, we've had such a full list of things to go through that it's been 5, 6 laps. Okay, document what happened. On to the next thing. 5, 6 laps. Okay, document what happened. On to the next thing.
Yeah.
And that's the way it's been.
Yeah,
And they
it's
can tell pretty much straight away. 5, 6 laps. Yeah, they did this, this, and this. Yeah, pushed a little wide with that setting, or yeah, it offered a little more grip, or no, it was sliding more, or it lost some edge grip, or oh, picked up some edge grip. So there's all these different things that happen with whatever settings you're doing. Oh, it's more comfortable when you throw it side to side, or when you threw it side to side, it slid a little more than normal.
yeah.
So you go through all these different things. If you have a smart test, and then you document all the stuff, and you're able to kind of focus on all the best of all the parts you tried.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. It sounds a lot more complicated than here's this new part. Now, I don't know what's going to happen, but go and ride as fast as you've ever gone in your life, and come
Yeah,
back and tell me.
no, it's not. Yeah, I mean, it's not like that for sure. We pretty
Yeah,
much know what's going to happen. We want the rider to tell us, not tell him, this part does this.
right.
Go make sure it does that. No, you just go, here's a part, or here's a setting. Tell me how that compares to the last one. Then you go, did it do this? Did it do this? And it's work for those guys. They 5, 6
Well,
laps. They got to come in and not only download the bike, but download their brain.
well, how? I mean, I just think of the eye doctor test. Like, is this better or is that better? Right? Like, how do you?
Yeah.
I mean, these guys are doing that, and they're looking for like tenths, right? So,
It's not always about the lap time either. So you're looking at because sometimes they can just go and do a lap time no matter how crazy the bike feels, just to get one lap. But that doesn't work in races. You can't just do one lap. You got to do a
right.
whole string of laps. So sometimes they'll come in and go, oh, that was really easy. It felt easy. And sometimes they say, oh man, I'm really working to get that lap time.
Yeah.
So even though it's the same lap time, a lot of times the comments is what you're looking for as
Okay.
to how easy or how difficult it was to do that lap time. Because these guys can do the lap time probably if you just stuck a straight bar in there instead of a shock for one lap. You go, wow, that was really bumpy, but I did the lap time.
Wow. That's crazy, but that makes sense. That makes sense. All right, so I got one more Yamaha R1 question. Chris Bore wants to know, like, for a stock swing arm, I'm guessing, what swing arm modifications would you recommend for a 16 R1?
Stock, swing arm,
Probably, yeah.
just run the thing as long as possible because those things are stubby.
There you
The
go.
newer ones has that little rib in there that you can extend the slot, right?
Yeah,
But I mean, overall, the bike works really well. It's a pretty well balanced motorcycle. Just run the back as far out as possible. It just works better. Wheelies less, puts more power to the ground. And then if you can get a rake cup kit, at least a half degree out, that helps with when you do the swing arm. You extend the swing arm, the mask starts going to the front, so you got to push that front back out to kind of rebalance the bike a bit. But they work really well. We race those things in super stock with just the thing at the end of the slots. So
right.
that'd be where I started. I don't think there's really any reinforcement and things like that to do. You might be able to find a linkage for the thing, but that's going to require some testing to be able to get it right.
Yeah, I mean, when I raced that bike, I still have the Yoshimura axle blocks. I don't know if they make them anymore, but it made it so you didn't have to have a screw that long for
Yeah.
the adjusters. But I'd recommend doing something like that, and you're probably going to have to run a longer chain than you're used to running to run
Yeah,
the.
if they can open up if it's legal for them to open up the slot, extend it back a little bit, an extra
Yeah,
5 millimeters or whatever, and that always helps because that gives you a better range of sprockets. Because remember we talked about that when we were racing that thing in super stock. We had that thing at the end of the slots all the time, everywhere, and it didn't matter what the track was. We just ran the same gearing.
yeah,
It was more important to have the wheelbase right than it was to have a perfect power band because you could always add throttle in the electronics. You could always add more power. You couldn't add power if the bike wasn't gripping. So the
right.
sprockets weren't a big deal.
And then you know what? The last question, I just got to ask this, because Ty Bankford in every show, he's trying to wear you down. He wants to know
Oh,
when.
ride the bike.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he wants to know when you're gonna hire him to ride the bike, because eventually he'll wear you down, he thinks, and you know, you'll hire the big fella. He's actually
It
not
is
so
a couple.
big, man. He's lost a bunch of weight too.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I think Aussie Dave's got a bike that maybe he needs someone to. He can bug him.
Yeah, I wish him good luck with that.
Yes.
Right?
I'm pretty sure Dave wants to ride the bike.
Yeah, I was hoping to see Dave at the test.
Yeah, I think he's probably busy with he's gonna race the 200, so I think he's really busy with the 200.
Oh, okay.
And his truck leaves, I think this tomorrow. I think something like that
So he'll
for
be at the
Daytona.
next one. Maybe he'll be at the next test in March.
Hope so.
Yeah,
I'd like for him to ride that thing before. I thought he took it out to Chuck Wall or something like that. I
he
don't know.
might have.
I don't know if he had a chance to ride. He didn't communicate with me that much, but so it'd be interesting to see him, riding somewhere with it and getting used to it before we go to the nationals.
Because that is Gagne's bike from last year, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's the one he won a bunch of
Yeah,
races with. We
there you
usually
go.
split the bike through the year. We have a couple bikes, and he'll ride until he destroys one completely, and then he gets another one. But he'll ride one for some of the races, and the other one for some of the races, and honestly, they're perfectly the same. You can't tell the difference.
All right, so let's talk about the 200. Leaving for
Okay,
date. You're leaving for Daytona next week. Truck leaves what,
not next
Monday?
week on the weekend.
Oh, you guys are leaving on the weekend.
Yeah, Sunday. We'll team drive, so we'll be there in about 40 hours.
Okay.
Yeah,
You
so we'll
and
be there
Walker.
on Tuesday night. Yeah, yeah. Lee's not coming, so I'll drive with Walker, and it'll be fun.
Lee's not coming to Daytona.
No, because we're only running Cameron,
Yeah.
and so we don't need a full crew. So it's going to
Okay.
be Fernando, Will, Walker, and self, and Marshall,
And the fire extinguisher guy.
and you. You'll be there to hold the fire extinguisher or
And
something.
Sarah. Sarah.
So take photos,
Yep.
and Maurice will be there.
Yes. Mo
Yeah, so,
Dog.
so Canfield, Corn Dog, and Lee will not be attending.
Wow. No Canfield this time. Bummer.
Yeah, their deal's a little bit different
Yeah.
than they're kind of on the how to word it. They got grandfathered in on their deal from Yamaha,
Mm-hmm.
and so the way their deal works is they get paid for all the travel up front. So if they're going to go do something like that, they'll have to pay on their own, and
Yeah.
so I think they'd rather save the dough than go
Makes
to
sense.
Daytona. And Lee hates Daytona.
So I. Yeah. I think I remember that. Um, so you guys have the R6. You got Cam P riding the thing. Tell me a little bit about, I did see the cylinder heads, that, like, what are the chances of the cylinder heads being numbered
Yeah, I
45
mean,
and 007?
yeah, Walker showed me the numbers on serial numbers on the cylinder head, and was like, oh, one cylinder has number 45, and the other one's 007. And I go, the chance of that, like a million to one. Of
Yeah.
all the cylinders the Yamaha made. So that's kind of interesting. Like when we went and won during the AMA days, when we won with Rap on the Kawasaki, we finished 1-2 was Rap and Attard, Ben Attard. And I went to get the parking pass, because back then you had to go to registration. almost the same lame thing we did last year. You know, you had to go wait in line forever, so then they would give you your hard card and you give you your parking pass. My parking pass was it's a P1 parking pass, right? So it said P1. It was number 200. So it said P1 200 on the pass. I'm like, we're gonna win this thing. It was like, yeah, whatever, racing against the factory Hondas, Miguel Duhamel, and all these other guys, you know. Like, nah, we're gonna win it.
It's a sign
Yeah.
for those of
So I don't know. I don't know what's
that
going to
know
happen.
that.
I think the competition is pretty good this year. Maybe there's going to be a little bit less messing up. You know, I'm sure the Ducati guys aren't going to run out of gas. They probably figured out what their exact mileage is now.
Yeah.
You know, since they ran out last time, and then they got Xavi Forez, you know, riding the bike too. So they got two bikes in the game, and then you have the 750s, right, from M4.
Yeah.
I don't know if they have one guy or two guys. I don't know who they have
I think
signed
they
up.
have
I
a
guess
bunch of guys. I think they have a bunch of guys riding that thing. I'm not really sure.
yeah. So then you have
Escalante and-
what's his name from South Africa, little guy,
oh yeah, the Sherry.
Marias.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean he's a missile on anything because he doesn't
Yeah.
weigh anything. That guy's like 2 feet tall. And then you got Hayes is riding it. He had a pretty good bike last year. By what I remember, he finished fourth.
Yep.
Not far back, and I mean like
Poshy.
right there, a few tenths back, right? And then
Posh.
you got then you got Posh and you got Eslick on those Triumphs, and those things are pretty fast. I mean the R6 is kind of the underdog, right?
Yeah.
It's the only 600 in the class. Everybody else is, I mean the Ducati is almost a leader, and the Triumphs are ridiculously fast at 765. They're basically 750s. You know, like a four-cylinder 750, and then you got the Suzuki's are four-cylinder 750s, and so yeah, the R6 is the little engine that could or whatever, right?
It's still fast. I mean,
Yeah,
well, damn near won the thing last year.
yeah, 007.
007.
Yeah, so I think there's gonna be a pretty good field out there, and they changed up some stuff, which is kind of interesting. They're giving us our grid spots straight away instead of qualifying for it.
Oh yeah.
They thought it'd be a little less confusing. Yeah, so we got to pick our grid spots. I think the top 10 gets to pick their top 10 from the previous year gets to pick their grid spot. So a little bit club race like, trying to, remember, how club races, they'd be like, oh, you're all based on points, you're grid on points because we don't have any qualifying. And so
Is that the spot on the grid itself or on the wall?
yeah, for the race.
Oh no shit. No qualifying.
Yeah, so
That's weird.
so our team's gonna be a little pissed at me because I always pick, pit spot 1,
Yeah.
which is near turn 1.
Yeah.
So can you imagine normally you would go up and you would pick your spot on the grid, your pit spot, not the grid spot, but the pit spot, not the position on the grid. So I'm saying it wrong. So your pit spot, your pit allocation, your hot pit.
Yeah.
So you pick it something close to your garage for your practice and qualifying, and based on how you pick for the actual race.
Yeah.
So then you can strategize where you want your spot. So normally we would pick something very far down in the end, so you had a lot of time for the rider to come in.
Yeah.
And also, if the rider went by around, and you'd be able to see it pretty easily too, as he stayed on the banking if you did another pass.
Yeah.
So and then you can get. It's just there's a few different things. Like he could race right out without the pit limiter if you're right there. Like you can't violate the speed limit on the exit. So the other way, you have to come in on the pit limiter, and have to leave on the pit limiter. Not that it all adds up to be the same thing, but it's just one less thing the rider's got to turn off.
Right.
So there's a few advantages to being down there, and that's the spot we always get. And so it's gonna be a long walk through practice and qualifying to get down there.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because last year we were the first spot, like in the break in the wall.
Right. Yeah. Right. The break in the
Yeah.
wall. Yeah. Now you got to turn left and go all the way to the end of all the way to turn 1. And our garages are further back. They're the yellow garages.
Well, it's a good thing that Walker's really fast. So,
Yeah. Break some scooters. We'll be good.
yeah, it's all right. Sorted out.
Yeah. So in that, I think the 200 is gonna be interesting. Last year was a barn burner. I think kind of about 8 guys that could win it.
Yeah.
Something like that. 7 or 8.
Yeah.
or 7, 8 that are going to run up front. So I think it should be an interesting contest. We'll
Yeah, I
see how
mean,
our little 600 does.
Daytona is one of those weird places that, you know, if happens, it'll happen at Daytona, right? I mean, you could have a huge lead and still lose the thing, right? So,
Yeah, it's happened a lot,
yeah.
unfortunately. Yeah, I put up. Maybe I can show it to you guys. But there was a lap times from the pit stop on, from Cameron and Posh, and you could see everywhere that Cameron was being a little tentative, passing people and stuff like that. He kept just losing a few tenths here, a half a second there,
Yeah.
a full second in one of the laps when he got caught up behind what's his name, Blockus.
Uh,
What was his
uh,
name again?
Blockoff.
Blockoff. Blockoff.
I got a
Call
phone
him.
call. I got a phone call after the podcast last year for calling him
You get a
Blockoff.
lot of phone calls for the crap you say.
Yeah, I'm just that guy, I guess. Sometimes I'm gonna
I
leave it to
call him
that.
Blockus.
Yeah, block us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sam Blockoff. Yeah, is he riding next year?
I think he's riding for somebody. I'm not really sure. I don't really pay attention to the news anymore.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Anyway, yeah, you can see where I think he had like a 7 or 5.5 second lead.
yeah,
We were leading most of it. I think we led most of the race,
yeah,
and so we had 5 or 7 second lead. I can't remember exactly what, and then slowly Posh chipped away at it. He had his head down, did a bunch of good laps, and yeah, we got the short end of the stick on just about every pass that Cameron made.
yeah. He was saying
So
that too. He was saying that he never last night anyway. He was saying that he never got a chance to like step back for a little bit and test the draft and see how it worked. So he got to test it at the end basically, and you
he
know,
got tested.
yeah, that. So
Yeah.
you know, somebody with like Josh Hayes who's been in that thing forever. He's so close. It's like
Did
you kind
Josh
of.
ever win it?
I don't believe so. I think that's the elusive win for him, the
Hmm.
200. Well, no, he kind of won it, and then like they got DQ'd that one time.
Oh, that's right. That was 2008 when he
Yeah,
had that cheater thing, that Arion Racing
the
thing.
chrome crankshaft. Yeah,
That whole engine was chrome. It definitely wasn't legal.
wow,
I
wow.
mean, nothing against Josh. He rode a good race, He won the thing. He got a good race. And then we finished 2-3. And we were sitting there, at the restaurant. I can't remember where we were at. Nice steakhouse. Being a little bit bummed out. We got second and third. And then the Kawasaki boss comes in and goes, "Hey, you guys, how do you feel about winning the Daytona 200?" I go, "What, have you been smoking crack? We finished second and third." He's like, "No, no, no. What do you feel like about winning the 200?" I'm like, "Okay, dude, you've been drinking too early." And no, he said, "Nope. Hayes just got disqualified. You guys finished first and second."
Oh shit.
Like,
Yeah.
no way. Then we find out that they'd gone to town with all the internal prep on those things. And normally if it was a sprint race, I'd be like, "Yeah, he earned it," but he did earn the win. But it's Daytona. Every little bit of, especially back then when everybody was on a 600cc bike,
Yeah.
and they were whatever they were. I think they were Formula Extreme bikes or something. So they were fairly built, but there were certain things you couldn't do. And if you picked up an extra horsepower or two, then that could be the advantage over 200 miles. So
Yeah.
unfortunately for him, he got his win taken away. It's always a bummer for a rider to work
Oh,
that hard to
totally.
have the win taken away.
Yeah. And obviously, I remember Kawasaki presented you with a crankshaft they dipped in chrome as like a.
Yeah, it's still at the shop. Yeah, it was kind of funny.
Okay, so I got a couple more questions coming in.
Yeah.
Knutson's wanting to know about the shirts.
Mm.
I think we haven't debuted them or anything yet. So I think
No.
once people see them, we're gonna probably do some kind of order thing like we did for World Superbike. I'm just guessing here, right? Or am I
Yeah.
crazy? Yeah. So stay tuned. Shirts will be available. We haven't let it. Nobody's even seen the livery of the bike yet, including
No.
us.
Yeah.
Right. So
Matt's gonna be delivering the bodywork maybe tomorrow or next day.
yeah.
And then Chris McGuire wants to know about the pit stop challenge and if we're gonna be in that again.
Probably, but the way Motor America does it is pretty stupid.
Oh,
They have the guys like push the bike in. It can't be running. It's completely unrealistic, right? And they don't do a complete fuel dump like you would for the 200.
right.
It's completely lame and retarded. I don't know why they're doing it that way. Really hate it. Did I
Okay.
say that word retarded? Isn't that your favorite phrase?
God damn it.
I heard you use that a lot.
I mean, So
Only
basically,
only in private conversations.
God damn it. Stop.
Anyway, so the whole pit stop challenge thing is pretty stupid because they don't dump a whole thing of fuel, and a lot of times the determining factor is the fuel dump
Yeah.
because you have two dry brakes that can only pass so much fuel at a certain amount of time. So when you do a pit stop, you're usually dumping about 17.5 liters, let's say. So they should go, okay, everyone has to dump 17.5 liters of gas.
Yeah.
Not fake a gas dump and then your single-sided swing arm can change a tire in 3 seconds like Formula One.
Right.
You got three guys on the swing arm. I mean, you still got to put the front wheel in and out, but I guarantee we can do the front wheel faster than the fuel. So when you have fuel in it, it's always like 10 seconds or 11 seconds or something like that. By the time the guy restarts the bike and takes off, they don't have to start the bike. You're pushing the bike in. They do a simulated fuel dump. The guy pulls the can as soon as the tires are in. So the
Yeah.
guys with a single-sided swing arm and a decent front setup is going to win because they're not doing the fuel dump.
Right.
So it's kind of pointless. But yeah, we'll do it. Whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I think the team won a little bit of money last year, right?
No, I don't think so. I
No?
think only first place got something. Yeah,
Oh, well, it sucks.
yeah,
But it's like
yeah. I don't
five
think there's
grand.
any money for second and third. What's
It's
that?
like 5 grand to win, isn't it?
I don't know. Something like that.
Yeah.
6 grand, 5 grand,
It could pay for the
16
fuel
grand.
for the truck. Some of it.
Are you
Anyway,
kidding me? You know how much fuel costs?
I said some of it.
It's about $1 a mile,
Wow.
not
Crazy.
counting tires and oil and all that stuff. So it's 2,500 miles from California to Daytona. So it's $5,000 round trip just in fuel, not counting the driver, not counting insurance, not counting tires.
All right. So David Algier, I'm sorry, dude. Not gonna pronounce your last name. Not even gonna fuck it up. How does the ideal swing arm length on an R6 compare to the R1?
Well, again, it's super sport, right? So you're kind of limited.
Yeah.
And again, with that bike, you kind of run the swing arm all the way back.
Really?
And I think most R6 guys run the swing arm as flat as you can because the bike has no rake. Like it doesn't really have a whole lot of trail in it. So in stock form. So, but the bike handles good. A lot of people like it, but normally we'll run the thing all the way back into the slots. Like that's pretty standard stuff. I mean, the R6 has been around so long that there's like the setup, I guess, on that bike.
This is actually a good point. Brian Green brings up. He's like the pit stop challenge winner should be whoever has the fastest pit stop during the race.
Yeah, that'd be better.
Yeah.
That'd be
I,
the most realistic instead
yeah,
of that
dude.
phony thing they did last time on slippery podium tile.
Well,
And
some
then,
of that
and then
wasn't.
you got a guy pushing the thing into the spot.
Yeah.
But last time I think Cam Peterson pushed it in. He was pushing
Yeah.
pretty fast, right?
Yeah.
This year we don't have another rider to push it in, so
Well, we have an
I was thinking,
athlete. We have an athlete,
yeah.
right? Chuck
Well, I figured
Chicchetto. I mean,
Chuck Chiacchetto, if he pushes it in, you hang like a bucket of Haagen-Dazs around where the triple clamps are, and he'd push that thing all the way past the pit stop into turn one,
oh
trying to
my
get to
god.
that ice cream.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, I mean, Chuck, Cam and I were talking about Chuck last night. It was just, yeah, we'll have Chuck push. And, Cam really poured it on thick about Chuck being an athlete and stuff. So,
Yeah, I didn't think he was. I think Chuck could
wow.
push pretty hard. I bet.
I bet he could. He's a
He
strong.
might break the tail off the bike.
He's a strong dude for sure. Athlete.
No,
That's a
not
stretch,
so
but
much.
um,
I might recruit Chuck to do our pit board because we're only taking
okay.
like 5 guys and Maurice coming to help. He last year he helped the fuel guy just pour fuel back in the can for the next stop kind of thing and document how much fuel we use. And so we're a little shy one guy for the pit board and I said, hey Chuck, you want to do our pit board because you do Matt's pit boards? He's like, yeah, no problem. And I told him, I said, we're going to be in turn one basically the whole uh, weekend. He's like, what? You should pit a little closer. He didn't want to walk. He goes, for me, that's just too far. He didn't want to walk that far.
Like get a
But
scooter.
anyway, yeah, he'll have a scooter to go out the pit board if he does it. But I just thought it was kind of funny, like you're talking about athletes. He's like, nah, I don't want to walk that far.
Well, Canfield was the fuel guy last year, so
Yeah,
Maurice is
Marshall
going
will
to
do
be.
the fuel this time.
Oh,
Yeah,
Marshall.
yeah. Well, he's
Okay.
tall. Marshall's tall, right? Have a
Yeah.
fuel guy, you need a tall guy. You need someone probably able to pick the thing up and hold it for 30 seconds or something while the guy's coming down pit lane and full of gas. And then you
Yeah.
got to be able to find the spot and slam it in there. The
Yeah.
fuel takes the longest, believe it or not. Unless
Yeah.
you have a hang up on the wheels. The fuel takes the longest.
Right. And we experienced a hang up on the front wheel last year, right? At one
Yeah, I
of the
mean,
stops.
it turned out that, and we'll learn from this, and we learned from it. Pirelli was putting the weights, not their fault, but they put the weights, the way the R6 wheel is, it's kind of rounded in the middle. And you can't stick the weights in the middle like you would with a Marchesini or a OZ wheel. So they put the weights on the edges of the rim. But we're running the 320 rotors, the later model rotors, not the small ones like a lot of guys do. They'll machine the fork and move the calipers in and run small rotors, so it's real easy to get the wheel in and out. But we're like, screw it, we want to run the brakes the way things designed. So we polished up the calipers and got everything working real nice. But that little bit of weight that was on the edge of the rim won't allow the calipers to come together.
Okay.
And so for fluke, the weight ended up exactly where the calipers were. So the wheel went in, clunk, clunk, the calipers wouldn't go in, and had to pull it out, rotate, put it back in, and away we go. So this year we know that, so that won't happen again.
And I'm sure we're going to practice in the pit a lot, right? Like
We did that
last year.
before,
Yeah.
We practiced putting the wheel in backwards a few times. You caught on video.
Yeah. I'll definitely bring in the GoPro again. I'll do the
Oh, yeah.
helmet, the head camera, and everything. Hopefully, they'll let us do some of that out there. Like have the camera during the pit stop practice or something.
Yeah, didn't we say something about it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission?
Oh yeah, there's that.
Remember World Superbike? The guy was like, "Oh, he sent you this long list of things you had to do to take any video," and he went through all that, and he kept sending him videos. Like, all right, you guys are good. Just do whatever you want.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Okay.
if you didn't ask, then those guys probably been all up your.
Well, I had to because of I didn't want to screw up your program, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah, for sure.
they seemed to take it super serious. So I was like, okay. And
It's a
plus
world-
there was a Yamaha element to that as well, right? So
Yeah, well, it's a world level competition, so
Yeah.
it's a different kind of game.
yeah, I think they were sick of seeing my content.
Yeah,
So-
pretty much at the end, they're like, we don't want to keep
They're
okay.
like,
You're
fine, you're not gonna fuck this up, fine, good.
good. Yes, we're good. We're good.
Yeah.
Move along.
Yeah. Okay. So let's see what else. We got a couple more things. Let's see here. Ricky Bobby says he wants to see me on the fire extinguisher again, and he will. I am the fire extinguisher guy. Yes, sir.
Isn't that supposed to be fire extinguisher, bitch?
No. I'm the fire extinguisher guy when I'm working on the team, man. It's a timing bitch. Fire extinguisher guy though. Yeah. Okay. So then, talking about endurance. This is from Chris McGuire from Pirelli. Anyway, talking about endurance racing. Is there any plans for that Attack might participate at the Laguna race that has a pit stop in it?
No.
He just says no. That's
No.
awesome.
No, that's
Well,
when we're all about the Superbike, right? So that's our contract. That's what we do for. We're not going to show up at our contracted event and do one more event. It's not going to happen, unless Yamaha wants us to do it really, really badly, which they don't.
Yeah.
At least not that they've said. The whole Daytona thing was kind of a side gig, and they enjoyed it last year, I do believe, and they got some mileage out of it. But at the end, it's just a tack performance little project,
Yeah.
So it's not something we're doing really for Yamaha, but we are the Yamaha team, so we'll race the Yamaha, of course. That is
Yeah.
our contractual obligations to race Yamahas. But at the end, it's just
Just for
a
fun.
shop project, fun, yeah.
Yeah. And
We're not-
it's kind of fun to come back to get revenge with Cam. Like that's Cam wants
Yeah,
he wants to know.
yeah, that's a double-edged sword. You can't go there going, "Oh man, we're gonna smoke everyone. We were
No.
lame in the last, passing people or whatever." It's a whole different race every time you show up.
Yeah.
I mean, I looked at some of the tire allocations. Speaking of the Pirelli guy, and it looks like Dunlop's bringing their brand new front for the 200. So the first race for that brand new front's going to be at the 200. That's an option.
Yeah.
So, and then there's, I think, HSBK is using Dunlops. Hayes is using Dunlops. So that's two there. I think the M4 guys are using Dunlop.
Yep.
So there's going to be quite a few people on Dunlop. I think Dunlop's really, they try to get us on it. But, my deal with Pirelli and the World Superbike gig, and I just like to stay consistent. I mean, we have to run Dunlops at the Nationals, and we buy the tires like everybody else does. We don't get anything special. So I like doing the World Superbike gig. Pirelli's always helped us out with that. So I kind of want to keep my loyalty where it is. And we'll just keep running the Pirelli for this thing and that. It's all good.
Well, looking forward to it, man. You know what? Thanks for your time, Richard. This has been fun. Enlightening.
Yeah, another thing too is, with this whole tire thing,
Yeah.
is being that there's even a Pirelli or a Bridgestone and Michelin in the paddock, guess what? M4, HSBK, and Hayes, and all those guys get free rubber.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because they have competition. So I wish the series was that way, where you would have a little bit of competition with the tires. A spec where you had multiple vendors, and then that could really help out with the team's finances. But they don't want to go that way.
Right. I think
Yeah.
we've I think we're gonna just make that a thing. We're just gonna keep talking about that until something.
It just makes too much sense. It's kind of like government. If it makes too much sense, they won't do it.
Right. Right.
Yeah. All right,
Yeah.
man.
All right, man. Well, get back to work. I know you were hanging an engine like 30 minutes ago or before we
Yeah,
started.
I'm gonna get on it. Just go put the dyno real quick for Daytona just to see what it does, and hopefully it's a little bit better than the last one.
Right on, man. Well,
Okay.
thank you for the chat, Richard, and I guess
Yeah.
I'll see you next week. All right.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Later.